What if the first memory you ever had wasn't your first birthday, wasn't a warm family dinner, wasn't even a toy you loved, but guilt? What if, as a 5-year-old, you were silently blamed for something no child should ever carry? Not with words, but with stares, with silence, with the absence of love you barely even understood. This is the story of Eli, a boy who lost his sister, and then lost himself. Not because of what he did, but because the people around him needed someone to carry their pain. And they chose him. But here's the thing, the truth has a way of crawling back. Even after years of being buried under silence, shame, and secrets. This isn't just a story about grief. It's about the damage silence can do. It's about what happens when a child becomes the villain in a story they never wrote. Stick around, because this story might just make you rethink what it means to forgive and who truly needs forgiveness. If that sounds like something worth hearing, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. My name is Eli, and the first thing I remember is the silence. Not the kind of silence you get when everyone is asleep. Not the silence of bedtime or a quiet car ride. This was different. This silence felt wrong. That morning started like any other. I was 5. I woke up to the smell of warm milk. The sunlight poured through the curtains. I could hear the faint sound of my baby sister babbling from the other room. That soft, bubbly sound she made when she was happy. I remember smiling. I remember humming to myself, dragging my blanket across the floor, headed straight to her room like I always did. She was the first thing I wanted to see every morning. Her name was Lily. She was only 7 months old. As I reached the hallway, I paused. Something felt off. No sound. No babbling. No movement. Just a strange stillness. I stood in front of the door to her room, my hand on the doorknob. I remember my fingers hesitating. My heartbeat started to feel loud in my chest. I turned the knob and pushed it open slowly. Her crib was right by the window. She was lying there, very still, eyes closed. I took one step in, then another. "Lily," I whispered. Nothing. I got closer. Her blanket was half on the floor. Her tiny fingers were curled, unmoving. Her face looked peaceful. Too peaceful. I reached out and touched her hand. It was cold. I stepped back. Something in my chest started to panic. I did not know what was wrong, but I knew it was not right. "Mom," I yelled.
Mom.
Lily is not waking up. I heard footsteps.
Fast.
Then Mom appeared behind me, rushing past, pushing me aside. She leaned into the crib, and then she screamed. It was a sound I had never heard before. It was sharp and cracked and endless. I backed away slowly until I hit the wall behind me. My legs gave out, and I slid down to the floor. My eyes stayed on Lily, or what used to be Lily. Dad came running in. His face froze. Then he knelt beside Mom, whispered something, checked her pulse. The room felt smaller and smaller. My breath turned shallow. I could not move. I could not cry. I just sat there, watching. Nobody looked at me. Nobody said anything to me. But I could feel it. The blame. It floated into the room like smoke. And it stuck to my skin. I remember overhearing the phone call to the ambulance. I remember a stranger in uniform carrying Lily out in a white blanket. I remember Dad walking out with them and Mom sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Her hands were shaking. I was still there, sitting on the floor, forgotten. Later that day, Mom asked me a question. Her voice was soft but hollow. "Did you close the baby gate last night?" I did not remember. "I think so," I said. She did not say anything else. No hug. "No, it is okay." Just silence. That night, I heard her crying in the bathroom. The next morning, I woke up to more silence. No Lily. No breakfast. Just empty rooms and whispered conversations behind closed doors. I tried to play with my toys, but they felt strange in my hands. Like I was not supposed to be happy. Like I was not allowed to laugh. So I sat on the carpet and stared at the wall, waiting for someone to say something. Waiting for someone to tell me what I did wrong. But no one did. Instead, I caught fragments of things not meant for me. If Eli had not screamed, I would have checked on her sooner. I told him not to run around while she was sleeping. He left the gate open. She could have fallen. She would still be here. They did not say it directly, but they did not have to. The way Dad avoided looking at me, the way Mom flinched when I touched her hand, the way nobody said happy birthday a month later. I was 5. I did not even know what death really meant, but I knew this. Something inside me had shattered, and nobody was going to help me put it back together. Not then. Not ever. I remember one night I crawled into my parents' room. I just wanted to sleep next to someone, to feel safe again, to feel loved. Mom opened her eyes and saw me standing there. "Go back to your bed, Eli," she said. I hesitated. I had a bad dream. Her voice was cold. "So did I. Now go." I never tried again. After that, I started tiptoeing around the house. I became quiet, careful, obedient. I stopped asking questions. I stopped playing. I tried to disappear. Maybe if I was perfect, they would stop hating me. Maybe if I was good enough, they would forgive me. But nothing changed. And deep down, a small voice inside me whispered, maybe they never will. Maybe I do not deserve it. That day, in front of Lily's crib, when my mother screamed, something else died too. Me. And the worst part is, nobody noticed. They never said it out loud. Not once. But they did not need to. I saw it in their eyes. I felt it in the way the room changed when I walked in. Like the air grew heavier. Like I was some kind of reminder they did not want to see. After Lily died, everything turned quiet. But not the peaceful kind of quiet. This was the kind that made your skin crawl. The kind that made every sound you made feel wrong. One night, I was walking down the hallway for a glass of water. That was when I heard it. Whispering behind the closed door of my parents' bedroom. Mom's voice. Maybe if he had not distracted me that morning, I would have noticed. I stopped walking. Dad answered quietly, "You cannot blame yourself." There was a pause. Then she said, even softer, "I am not." That silence after her words, it hit me like a slap. I stood there, frozen, my hand still holding the edge of the wall. I felt like I had walked in on something I was never supposed to hear. Something that confirmed what I already feared. They did blame me. Not directly. Not with words. But in their hearts, they did. Later that week, a man in a white coat came to our house. A doctor or a therapist, I think. He sat with my parents in the kitchen. I was sitting in the living room pretending to draw. But my ears were wide open. "We're just looking for clarity," Dad said. "She was so healthy." The doctor said something about rare conditions, something about possibilities. I did not understand much. But I heard the question. "Is it possible," Dad asked, "that the baby, maybe she had a fall? Could that have caused it?" The doctor paused. I heard papers shifting. "She was found in her crib," the doctor said. "No external trauma. It was likely neurological, possibly a seizure in her sleep." "But," Dad said again, his voice low, "if the baby gate was left open and she somehow got out and maybe hit something?" The words punched me in the gut. I stopped drawing. I dropped the crayon. They were still trying to find a way to connect the dots back to me. I was 5. I did not even know what a seizure was. But I knew what it felt like to be the target of a blame no one would say out loud. From that point on, I started scanning everything I did. I would double-check the doors, triple-check the stove, line up my shoes perfectly. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, if I could prevent the next mistake, they would stop looking at me like I was broken. One day, I knocked over a glass of juice. It spilled all over the table. I looked up at Mom, panicking. Her jaw tightened. She did not yell. She just closed her eyes and took a breath. Then she said, "Go to your room." Not, "It is okay." Not, "Accidents happen." Just, "Go." I went upstairs and sat in the dark for an hour. Nobody came to check on me. It was always like that. They did not punish me with words. They punished me with distance. Like being close to me reminded them of what they lost. I remember once, in the middle of the night, I snuck into the garage to get a toy I had left there. As I tiptoed past the hallway, I heard Dad talking to someone on the phone. I just do not know what to do with him, he said. There was silence. He looks so much like her, he added. Sometimes I cannot even stand it. I stopped breathing. The garage stayed dark. I never got the toy. The next morning, he made me pancakes. He smiled. He asked me how I slept. But I already knew. He was pretending. We all were. Pretending that everything was fine. Pretending that love still lived in our house. But I knew better. Because love looks you in the eyes. Love laughs with you. Love hugs you for no reason. And in my house, no one looked me in the eyes anymore. No one laughed. No one touched me unless they had to. Once, I tried asking Mom about Lily. I just wanted to talk. I missed her too. What was her favorite song? I asked. Mom turned away. She grabbed a dish from the sink and said, flatly, "Go play, Eli."
So I did.
But not because I wanted to, because I had learned something. They were allowed to grieve. I was not.
They were allowed to cry.
I had to stay quiet. They lost a daughter. And in the process, I lost my family. One night, I tried writing her a letter. Dear Lily, I am sorry if I did something wrong. I love you. I miss you. I wish you could come back. Love, Eli. I folded it carefully, put it in an envelope, left it under my pillow. The next morning it was still there. Of course it was. But part of me hoped someone would find it, that someone would read it and say, "You did not do anything wrong." But no one ever did. Because the truth is, no one wanted me to be innocent. They needed a reason. They needed something to hold on to. A way to explain the unexplainable. And I was the easiest reason. I was 5. But in their eyes, I was the one who left the gate open. I was the one who cried too loud. I was the one who distracted Mom. And maybe, just maybe, I was the one they wished had not been born at all. I did not disappear from the world. I disappeared from their world. I was still there, eating breakfast, brushing my teeth, walking through the same hallways. But I was not seen. Not really. At first, I thought it was temporary. Maybe they were just sad. Maybe they just needed time. So I waited. A week. A month. Then another. But nothing changed. They stopped calling my name. They stopped asking how school was. They stopped saying goodnight. I became a ghost in my own house. I slept in a room that felt colder than it used to. I ate at the dinner table in silence. I brought home drawings from school that no one pinned to the fridge. They stayed folded in my backpack, smudged and forgotten. One night, I knocked on their bedroom door. Just wanted to say goodnight. No answer. I turned the knob, peeked in. The light was off. I could see their shadows in bed. I whispered, "Good night, Mom. Good night, Dad." Still no answer. I closed the door and stood in the hallway for a long time. Long enough for my feet to go numb. I told myself they were asleep, but I had heard the shuffle of a pillow. I had seen my mother turn slightly when I spoke. She was awake. She just chose not to respond. After that, I stopped knocking. I stopped speaking first. I stopped trying. It was not just silence that filled the house. It was distance. Physical, emotional, invisible but real. I became quieter at school, too. Teachers said I was polite, focused, a good kid. What they did not know was I was just trying to survive. Trying not to be a burden. Trying not to be noticed because I believed that the less I existed, the better. I remember my 6th birthday. I waited the whole day for something. A balloon. A slice of cake. Even just a happy birthday. Nothing came. No one said a word. That night, I cried into my pillow. I pressed my face so deep into it, I could not breathe. And for a moment, I wondered what would happen if I just kept going. Would they even notice? Would they miss me? The next morning, I got up like nothing happened. Put on my clothes. Ate cereal alone. Walked to school. And no one asked about the puffy eyes or the red marks on my face. That is when I realized something terrible. I could vanish entirely, and they would let me. After Lily died, my parents lost their daughter. But I lost everything. I lost parents. I lost safety. I lost the belief that love is unconditional. Because there's had conditions. Be silent.
Be still.
Do not remind us of what happened. Some nights, I would sit in the hallway outside their room. Just sit. No reason. Just hoping that maybe they would open the door. That maybe Mom would reach down and touch my hair like she used to. That maybe Dad would smile and ask me to come in and watch a movie with them. But the door never opened. It was always locked, like their hearts. I started drawing pictures of myself with no face. Just a blank oval. I did not even know why. Maybe I just felt like I no longer had an identity. I was not the son, not the brother, not anything. At school, I lied to my teachers. Said my parents were busy, tired, working late. They believed me. Why wouldn't they? I smiled. I did my work. I was quiet. I was good. So good that I disappeared.
Completely.
Sometimes I stared at my reflection in the mirror and asked myself questions. Are you still in there? Do you still count? Would she have loved you if she lived? I never had answers. Then one night, I heard it. The one sentence that shattered whatever pieces were still holding me together. I was walking past their bedroom, just heading to the kitchen. Their door was cracked open. I heard Mom. She was crying.
Her voice was thin.
Barely more than a whisper. I cannot look at Eli anymore, she said. My knees buckled. I stopped right there in the hallway, gripping the wall. I try, she continued, but every time I see his face, I see her. And it hurts so much. There was silence after that. A long, aching silence. I turned around and walked back to my room, closed the door, sat on my bed. And that night, something in me truly broke. Not because she hated me, but because I finally understood she loved Lily so much that there was no room left for me. After a while, I stopped trying to be loved. I started trying to be useful. If I could not be wanted, maybe I could at least be tolerated. So I made rules. Not written down, just carved into my brain. Rule number 1. Do not cry. Crying makes noise. Noise makes them remember. And when they remember, they hurt. And when they hurt, they look at me like that. Rule number 2. Do not speak unless spoken to. Most things I had to say were pointless anyway. They did not want my questions. They did not want my stories. They wanted peace. Silence.
Distance.
So I gave it to them. Rule number 3. Do not ask for hugs. Do not reach for affection. If they want to touch you, they will. If they do not, you have no right to want it. Rule number 4. Do not make mistakes. If you spill something, clean it before they see. If you break something, hide the pieces. If you feel anything, hide that too. Rule number 5. Make yourself small. Physically. Emotionally. Shrink until you take up no space. Be invisible but helpful. Like a ghost that cleans. By the time I turned 7, I was doing the dishes without being asked. I folded my own clothes. I lined up my toys with perfect symmetry across the shelf. I vacuumed the living room. I even cleaned the bathroom mirror every Sunday. I never waited for thanks. I never expected praise. I just wanted less tension in the room, less of those long, sharp silences. Sometimes I watched other families at school pick up. Moms kneeling to hug their kids. Dads tossing backpacks into the trunk, ruffling their son's hair. I watched like an outsider. Like someone peeking through a window at a world I was not part of anymore. One afternoon, I stayed late in the classroom, pretending to color. My teacher, Mrs. Rayner, knelt beside me. Is everything okay at home, Eli? She asked gently. I nodded fast. Too fast. She paused, then reached into her drawer and pulled out a small sticker. A gold star. You are always so quiet, she said. So well-behaved. I took the sticker like it was a medal, like it proved I was doing something right. That night, I placed it on the corner of my dresser. I stared at it for 10 minutes before turning off the light. One gold star. One tiny proof that I still existed. I started waking up early just to make breakfast. Not because I was hungry. Because I hoped maybe, just maybe, they would see the effort. that maybe Mom would smile. Maybe Dad would say, "Thank you." The first time I did it, I burned the toast. I cried silently in the kitchen, holding the edges of the blackened bread with shaking hands. I still set the table, still poured orange juice into their glasses. Then I ran back to my room before they came down. The next morning I tried again. This time, the toast was golden. The eggs were fine. I placed them on plates, added forks, even folded the napkins. I waited behind the kitchen door. They sat down.
Ate.
No one said a word. Not "Who made this?" Not "This is nice." Not even "Why?" Just chewing. Then chairs sliding back. Then the sound of plates in the sink. Then nothing. It was like feeding shadows. Still, I kept doing it. Not every day, but often enough. Sometimes I wrote little notes and placed them under the plates. Just simple things. Hope you have a good day. Sorry if I messed anything up. I love you. One day, I walked in while Mom was still at the table. I had forgotten my notebook. She was holding one of the notes. I froze. She looked up at me, just for a second. Then she put the note down and said, without emotion, "Put the syrup away." That was it. No mention of the note. No question. No smile.
Just a task.
I did it. And left. Later that week, I tried something new. I brought her breakfast in bed. Pancakes. Strawberries. Her favorite tea. I carried the tray carefully, balanced it like my life depended on it. I knocked gently on the bedroom door. "Come in," she said. I opened the door, walked slowly, set the tray on the nightstand. She looked at it, then at me. For a split second, her eyes softened. Then it vanished. "Just put it on the table," she said, turning away. My hands went cold. My chest felt tight. I nodded and whispered, "Okay." I walked out of the room, closed the door behind me, and in that moment, I realized something I never wanted to believe. No matter how good I tried to be, I could never be Lily. And in this house, only Lily was worth loving. Not everyone stopped looking at me. Not everyone forgot. There was one person who still saw me. Uncle Derek. He was Mom's older brother. He lived 2 towns over, but he came by almost every weekend. Unlike my parents, he never flinched when I walked into the room. He never avoided my eyes. He never stopped calling me kiddo. Every time he visited, he brought a candy bar and a smile. He would kneel down, look me right in the eye, and say, "Still hanging in there, champ?" And I would nod, because I did not know what else to do. He was the only adult who still talked to me like I was human. One Saturday, he showed up with a new book.
"Dinosaurs," he said.
"The cool kind. The meat eaters." He handed it to me with a grin. "Thanks," I said, clutching it like it was treasure. We sat on the porch and flipped through it together. He read the names out loud in a dramatic voice, pausing for effect. "Tyrannosaurus Rex. The king. Like you, Eli. Quiet but powerful." I smiled for the first time that week.
He saw it.
"You still got that spark in there," he said softly. "I am glad." I did not respond, but I wanted to ask something. I wanted to ask why he was the only one who still talked to me. Why he never looked at me with pity or guilt. Why he never avoided my presence like everyone else. I never asked. I was scared of the answer. But he knew. I think he always knew. Over the years, his visits became the only thing I looked forward to. It was like the house breathed a little easier when he was around. Even Mom forced a smile when she opened the door for him. Dad shook his hand without the usual stiffness. Maybe they were just good at pretending. But Uncle Derek was not pretending.
He meant it.
He saw me. One afternoon when I was about 10, he asked if I wanted to ride with him to the grocery store. I jumped at the chance. Anything to get out of the house. We drove in silence for a bit. Then he said, "Do you remember your sister's laugh?" I nodded slowly.
Yeah.
It was high and squeaky, like a baby bird. He smiled. "I remember that too. She used to giggle whenever you made that silly face." He glanced at me. "You were a good brother, Eli." I blinked fast. No one had ever said that before. "Thanks," I said, voice barely above a whisper. He pulled into the parking lot but did not get out. He just sat there, engine running. Then he spoke again. Eli, I need you to know something. I waited. He gripped the steering wheel. His knuckles went pale. What happened to Lily was not your fault. I felt my chest tighten. He turned to me. His eyes were full of something I could not name. Sadness? Regret?
Both.
I mean it, he said. No matter what anyone said. No matter how they acted.
You were 5.
And you did nothing wrong. I stared at him. My throat burned. I left the gate open, I said. He shook his head.
No.
That was not what took her. They needed someone to blame.
He paused.
And you were there. The silence between us was heavy. He let it sit. They never said it, I whispered. They did not have to, he replied. He reached out and placed his hand on my shoulder. Eli, listen to me. Sometimes adults carry so much pain, they forget how to protect the people who need it most.
It does not make it right.
It just makes it real. I nodded, but it felt like my whole body was shaking. You are not broken, he added. You are not the villain. I wanted to believe him, more than anything, but part of me was still afraid. Afraid that if I believed I was not to blame, then I would have to feel something else, like anger. And I did not know what to do with that. Uncle Derek squeezed my shoulder gently, then let go. Forgive them if you can, kiddo, he said. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. That stuck with me, more than anything anyone had ever said. That maybe forgiveness was not about saying, what you did is okay, but more like saying, I will not let what you did control me anymore. We got out of the car, bought groceries, talked about space and stars. He told me about black holes and how sometimes light could not even escape them. I remember thinking, that is what my house feels like. A black hole. No light escapes. But somehow, Uncle Derek kept finding a way to shine light on me anyway. He became my secret lighthouse. The only one who reminded me I still existed. That I still mattered. And that maybe, just maybe, someday I would escape the darkness too. There was a time I was afraid of the dark. Now I was more afraid of the mirror. Because the mirror told the truth. It did not lie. It did not pretend. It just stared back. I used to look at my reflection and see a kid. Now I saw something else. Something hollow. Something wrong. I did not recognize the eyes staring back at me. They looked tired. Older than they should. Like they had seen too much and said too little. I started avoiding mirrors altogether. Bathroom mirrors. Window reflections. Even the back of a spoon. I could not stand to look at myself for more than a second. Because every time I did, I saw her. I saw Lily. And behind her, I saw blame.
Guilt. Shame.
And something worse. I saw a monster. It did not growl. It did not bite. But it whispered. Soft things. You ruined everything. They wish you had died instead. You are the reason she is gone. I knew those voices were not real. But they still felt true. I kept quiet at school. Kept smiling when people passed by. I did not want attention. I just wanted to survive the day without breaking. But inside, I was falling apart. Piece by piece. Nobody noticed. Nobody ever noticed. I remember one afternoon, I came home and found Mom in the kitchen. She was baking. Flour on her shirt. Measuring sugar. Something she used to do when Lily was still alive. I stood in the doorway, just watching. She turned and saw me. For a second I thought she might smile. But she did not. She just wiped her hands and said, "Do not touch anything." I nodded and walked away. No words. No warmth. Like I was invisible again. That night, I went to the bathroom and locked the door. I stared at myself in the mirror. I leaned close. Really close. I looked into my own eyes trying to find something, anything, that proved I was still human. But all I saw was a stranger. I opened the cabinet. Pulled out a razor blade Dad used for shaving. It was small.
Thin.
I sat on the edge of the tub. Rolled up my sleeve. My hands were shaking. I did not want to die. I swear I did not. I just wanted to feel something that made sense. because the numbness was unbearable. I pressed the blade to my skin, lightly at first, then a little more. A small line appeared, then red. It stung, but it was real. The pain was honest. Not like the silence in my house. Not like the fake smiles or the stiff hugs that never came. Just real. I watched the blood slide down my wrist, slow and quiet. And in that moment, I whispered to myself, if I disappeared, would they feel relief? Not sadness. Not loss. Just relief. The thought made me feel sick. But it also felt like the closest thing to an answer I had ever gotten. I cleaned up the cut, put the razor back, rolled down my sleeve. No one saw. No one ever asked. A few days later, Uncle Derek called. He asked if I wanted to visit his place for the weekend. I said yes, without hesitation. I needed to breathe. When I got there, he let me pick the movie. He made popcorn. He laughed out loud at the dumbest scenes, just to make me laugh too. It worked. For a little while, I forgot. That night, after he turned off the lights and said goodnight, I stayed awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft ticking of a clock. And then I cried. Not loud, not messy, just quiet tears that slipped down the sides of my face and soaked the pillow. I was so tired of carrying it alone, so tired of pretending I was okay. I wanted to tell someone. I wanted to scream, but I could not find the words. I could not even find my voice. So I cried in silence, because that was the only language I had left. I turned 18 on a Wednesday. No one said a word. No card. No hug. No happy birthday, Eli. Just another quiet morning. I got up, brushed my teeth, and stared at the mirror. Same hollow face. Same tired eyes. I told myself not to expect anything. I had trained myself for this. Still, a small part of me hoped. I walked downstairs. Dad was reading the paper. Mom was scrolling through her phone. Neither looked up when I entered the kitchen. I poured myself some cereal, ate in silence. The only sound was the crunch of flakes and the occasional turn of a newspaper page. When I finished, I stood. Nothing. I left the bowl in the sink and went back upstairs. I sat on my bed, looked at the calendar. My birthday was circled, but not by them. I had done it myself weeks ago out of habit, not hope. Then I saw it. Something brown under the door. I got up, picked it up. It was an envelope. No name on the front, just thick paper and a slight crease in the corner. I opened it slowly. Inside was a folded letter and a few printed pages. I read the top line first. Autopsy report, Lily Marie Wells. My chest froze. My hands went cold. I looked for a name at the bottom. Uncle Derek. I sat back down on the bed. The room blurred at the edges. I unfolded the report. Medical terms.
Dates.
Descriptions. It was hard to understand at first, like reading a foreign language. But then the words jumped out. Edema cerebral. Seizure during sleep. Undiagnosed neurological condition. No external trauma. No signs of asphyxiation. No blunt force injury. I read it again.
And again.
The words started to sink in. She did not die because the baby gate was open. She did not die because someone cried too loud. She did not die because I distracted Mom. She died because of something no one could have seen. Something no one could have stopped.
Not even them.
I felt my hands shaking. The paper crinkled in my grip. I looked at the last page.
There was a sticky note on it.
It was from Uncle Derek. His handwriting was sharp, steady. You need to see the truth, Eli. You deserve it. They knew. I am sorry. That was all it said. I could not breathe. I stood up, pacing the room, holding the papers like they might disappear. All these years, all this silence. They knew. They had known. I sat on the floor and stared at the wall. 1,000 things ran through my head. Anger, shock, sadness, and underneath it all, betrayal. They let me believe I had killed her. They let me carry it. They watched me shrink,
fade, hurt.
And they said nothing. I thought about the nights I cried alone. The mirror, the blade, The rules I made for myself just to survive. All for what? So they could sleep easier? So they could live with themselves? I looked at the envelope again. I could not go back to being the boy they ignored. The boy they punished with silence.
Not now.
Not after this. I got up, walked down the stairs with the report in my hand. Dad was still on the couch. Mom was still on her phone. I stood in front of them. They looked up. Finally, I held out the papers. Neither reached for them. I dropped them on the table. Mom stared. Dad frowned. I said just one thing. You knew. Then I turned around and walked out of the house. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to feel real again. Because for the first time in my life, I realized the guilt was never mine. It was theirs. I ran. I did not grab a coat. I did not care that it was dark. I just ran. Street after street, until my legs burned and my lungs ached. Until the sound of my own footsteps was louder than the storm inside my head. I ended up at Uncle Derek's house. I did not knock. He opened the door before I could. He must have been waiting. His face said everything. His eyes were tired.
Red.
His mouth pressed into a line that had known too much silence. I figured you would come, he said. I walked in without a word. I sat on his couch and held the report in both hands like it was still hot. He sat across from me, elbows on his knees, shoulders heavy. For a minute, neither of us spoke. Then I asked, "How long have they known?" His answer came without hesitation. Since the autopsy. A few weeks after the funeral. I swallowed hard. So all this time. Yes, he said. All this time. I looked down at the papers again. The proof. The truth. The thing they buried. You gave this to me, I said.
Why?
He sighed. Because I could not keep watching you carry something that was never yours. I felt my jaw clench. They never said anything, I whispered. Not once. Not even when I blamed myself. Uncle Derek's eyes darkened. I told him to tell you. I begged them. What did they say? They said you were too young. That it would confuse you. That it was better if things stayed quiet. I shook my head. No, it was easier. He looked away. They were scared, Eli. They lost a child. And instead of turning to each other, they turned on you. I stood up, pacing. I was 5. I did not even know what death meant. I know. They let me think I killed her. That I ruined everything. His voice broke. They let you carry their pain so they did not have to face their own. I stopped walking. His words hit something deep in me. They needed a villain, he said. And I was right there. He nodded. You were the only one who could not fight back. I sat back down.
Slowly. Carefully.
Like my own weight might crush me. Do you think they ever loved me? I asked. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, I think they did. But love twisted by grief can look like something else. Something colder. I stared at the floor. All those years. All those birthdays. All that silence. I was not a son. I was a symbol. A reminder of what they lost. Of what they could not save. They could not handle the truth, Uncle Derek said gently. So they gave it to you. I looked up. Then what am I supposed to do now? He leaned forward. You decide what happens next. You can stay buried in their shame, or you can climb out. I exhaled, slow and shaky. I do not even know who I am without the guilt. He nodded. That is because you have never been given the chance to be anything else. I thought about that all night. Even after he offered me the guest room. Even after the house went quiet. I lay there staring at the ceiling. Not crying. Not angry. Just hollow. Like someone had ripped out the center of me and left a shape behind. They knew. They always knew. And they chose silence over truth. Blame over love. Shame over healing. They chose themselves. And they chose wrong. I went home the next day. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to. I needed them to see me. Really see me. For once. The house looked exactly the same.
Still. Pale.
Quiet. Like nothing had happened. Like everything had. I stepped through the front door and felt the cold draft hit my chest. I held the folder in my hand, the report folded neatly inside. Like proof I had not imagined it all. Like proof I mattered. Mom was in the kitchen. Dad was in the living room, feet up, staring at the TV with that blank look he wore most days. I stood in the center of the room. Neither of them spoke when they saw me. I did not say hello. I placed the folder on the coffee table between us. Dad stared at it like it might explode. Mom came closer, slowly, her steps uneven. "What is that?" she asked. I said nothing. She reached out with both hands. Opened it. Her eyes scanned the first line. Then the second. Then everything else. Her face went white. Dad leaned forward, reading over her shoulder. I watched his jaw tighten. The way his lips moved slightly, like he wanted to say something, but could not. I sat down across from them.
Calm.
Tired, but clear. "I know," I said. They looked up. Their eyes met mine. Finally. I know it was not my fault. No one spoke. No one ever told me. I continued. "You let me believe it. For years." Mom's lips parted. "Eli, do not." I cut in. "Do not say you were trying to protect me. You were protecting yourselves." She sank into the chair like her bones gave out. Dad rubbed his forehead. "We did not know how," he said, voice hoarse. "Yes, you did," I replied. "You just chose not to." Silence again. But not the usual kind. This one was cracked. Exposed.
Real.
"I spent my whole life thinking I killed her," I said. "I punished myself every single day. I stopped speaking. I stopped asking for love. I tried to disappear. And you let me." Mom's hands trembled on her lap. "We were grieving," she whispered. "So was I," I said. "But I was 5. I needed you." Her eyes filled with tears. "I am sorry." I nodded. Not because it fixed anything, but because it was something. Then I turned to Dad. He looked at me with eyes I did not recognize. Not cold. Not angry. Just broken. "I did not know how to look at you," he said quietly. "Every time I saw your face, I saw what we lost." I nodded again. "But I was what you had," I said. "And you lost me too." He stared down at the floor. Then he whispered, "We were so afraid of losing everything, that we lost you instead." I let that sit. I let it sting. Because it was the truth. And finally they were saying it. I stood. I looked at both of them. "I am not asking for anything," I said. "Not forgiveness. Not love. Not even understanding." They looked up at me, wide-eyed. "I just need you to know, I am not your ghost anymore." I walked out of the room. Up the stairs. Into my old bedroom. I sat on the bed and let out a breath I had been holding for 13 years. For the first time, I felt the weight start to shift. Not gone, but moving. I went to visit her grave alone. No flowers. No letter. Just me. It was a quiet morning. The kind where the world feels paused. Like even the birds know something important is happening. I stood there, in front of the headstone, hands in my pockets, staring at her name. Lily Marie Wells. Beloved daughter. Forever missed. There was no mention of a brother. No space for that. But I knew who I was. And I knew what this visit meant. I was not here to say goodbye. Not really. I was here to let go. For 13 years, I carried her death like a chain wrapped around my spine. I dragged it through childhood, through school, through nights alone and days too quiet, through every silence that followed me home. And now I knew the truth. She did not die because of me. She died because her body failed her. Because sometimes the world is cruel. Because sometimes life ends without explanation or fairness. And that is no one's fault, especially not mine. I knelt down beside the stone and whispered, "I missed you." The words came out soft, almost embarrassed. Like I was still 5 years old, scared to say too much. I placed my hand on the cold marble. "I loved you," I said. Even before I knew what that meant. The wind moved through the trees behind me. "I spent so long thinking I was the reason you were gone. But I am not." I know that now. I sat back on my heels. I am sorry for the time I lost. For the years I spent being someone I was never supposed to be. A pause. Then a deeper breath. I forgive them. Not because they deserve it, but because I need to. Because I want to remember you without pain wrapped around it. I looked up at the sky. Gray clouds. No rain. I still do not know who I am, Lily. But I am figuring it out. And I promise I will not carry this shame anymore. I stood, brushed the dirt from my jeans, looked down one last time. I was just a child, I said. But now I am something else. I turned to leave. The world did not shift. The sky did not open. But something inside me felt lighter. Like the chapter had closed. Like the story had changed. I walked slowly back to the car. Uncle Derek was waiting by the driver's side. He did not say anything when he saw my face. He just nodded once like he understood. We drove in silence for a while. Then I said, I think I am ready. He looked over. For what? To stop surviving. I looked out the window. To start living. He smiled, soft and proud. You have always been alive, Eli, he said. You just forgot what that felt like. We kept driving. Miles and miles of road ahead. No map. No plan. But for the first time, that felt okay. Because now I knew where the story began. And it was not the day Lily died. It was the day I chose to stop being the villain. It was the day I remembered I was a child. Just a child. And none of it was my fault. My name is Eli. And my earliest memory was guilt. But from this moment on, I choose to remember courage. Some stories do not end with fireworks. They end with truth. With healing. With a breath finally released after years of being held in. Eli's story is not just about grief. It is about what happens when silence is louder than love. When a child is made to carry a weight that was never theirs to begin with. And how, sometimes, the hardest part of growing up is unlearning the lies you were raised to believe. If you are watching this and you have ever felt like the villain in your own home, not because of what you did, but because of what others could not face, this story is for you. You are not to blame for other people's pain. You are not the problem just because someone else could not process their loss. And most importantly, you are allowed to heal. You are allowed to be whole. You are allowed to live. Thank you for watching this far. If this story moved you, or made you think of someone who needs to hear it, please like this video and hit subscribe to support this channel. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. The kind of stories that stay with you long after the screen fades to black.